Hello and welcome to Intuitive Clarifications with Natasha. I'm here to assist you in your life's journey, and thank you for being here. And if you're coming in, remembering that your truth is yours, your truth. So today's conversation is going to be about grief, the grief story. And I know that Regan Forston was supposed to be here with me today, but he texted me and said he's not feeling very good, which actually makes sense because we have the full moon or the new moon. And this one's pretty powerful. We're having a lot of conjunctions of things happening. And I'm not an astrologer, but yet I've danced with it. And oh my gosh, today my dizziness really hit me. I actually left work a little early because it really hit me very strong. But I also felt the energies of it. And the energies of that was I felt like the earth was moving, and then um, the planetary shifts and everything that was coming on in the stars and everything like that. I was in the middle of it, being the conduit. Isn't that a word? The conduit of change, the conduit of the downgrades, the upgrades I was getting, the downloads I was getting, those interesting insights and all that kind of stuff. And then, getting information about word that was going to change in the 3D world that I was not agreeing with. Yet at the same time, I know change has to happen. So how am I going to change with it? So, grief is one of those things that's kind of interesting because I can feel a little bit of grief myself. That there was a decision made, and I wasn't really part of it. But there again, sometimes how your bosses make decisions that they don't ask the people who are doing the work, right? They don't really tell us what we're doing. And so they assume they know what we're doing, but do they really know? So I'm feeling a little bit of grief that things are happening, but how can I help it be and not be the one that has to do the hard work of it? Right. And I understand that this is part of it. And, it's like it's starting to get cold where I live. And, standing out in 30-degree weather for 45 minutes, just standing there isn't very much fun. Right. So, I'm trying to figure out how I can negotiate some of this negotiation that's in front of me. And that's the grief. Right? That's the grief. That's the grief process. That's the grief understanding. That's the grief of what we are and who we are. And sometimes when we're in this grief moment that we don't always see and hear and feel and know exactly what we are negotiating. But I know for myself that as I walk into this reality that I'm in, that I kind of get an idea that, that what I'm negotiating today with news that I don't like, and I'm having to process through the change. Well, check in to see what part of that for you is the grief process. Because the grief process is something that we and that's one thing I wanted to go a little bit deeper. That deeperness of conversation. It's not about grief in the sense of, but I lost my parents, right? Yeah, we've had that discussion before, and people know that that's grief. The thing is, so that deep down grief that is about change, that whispers, those threads, the threads of change that we grieve that are happening. And so, how can you negotiate through some of that story? And that's the thing is I talked to somebody who can give me language, which was kind of nice. And, it's a moment. And, when we're thinking that things are happening and yet they don't, who are we and what we're going to do? So if you're just coming on and you're expecting to see Regan here, well, he texted me and said he's not feeling very good. And like I said earlier, that, I've had my dizziness today, and it just seems like there's a lot going on with the body lately. You know, um, it almost feels like my heart center. This part of me is getting upgraded, and it's not necessarily feeling at ease in the reality that I'm in. And okay, I'm going to be doing it. So hi, Paula, new moon. Yes, it's the new moon energy and it's huge. This huge shift we're going through, because we've gone through a major shift at the 1111 portal. Now this new moon is a big one, and I actually need to work on my newsletter. It's that story of who are we, and what truth do we want to walk into? What are we wanting to be? Who are we wanting to be? And I'm still a little bit dizzy, but I've been kind of a dizzy blonde my whole life. And I mean that with a lot of love, that it's not that I'm not always like dizzy in the sense of, but I don't drink because I can get the room spinning both ways at the same time. Phew, right? And I just I've been kind of in my equilibrium, being able to negotiate a lot. And so we got to work with what's here. But the thing is, though, like I really use the mantra a couple times. I'm attuning to the energies of the now, especially when I could tap into things. Oh, and I need to do that with my heart center here. That it has to, I'm asking it to attune. And so I've been using my tuning fork, right? And doing my tuning fork in my heart center to help it attune to the energies of the now. And I've been lucky. This came to me at a psychic fair that I was in, and somebody had them, and I'm like going, "Oh, should I get one?" And I heard yes, and I'm glad because I haven't really been able to find one since then. And I can tell you, our frequency of our bodies are tuning into a lot of new knowings. And so, if you can get a hold of a tuning fork and use it on these parts of your body that are not necessarily aligning with the energies, that can really help with tuning in. Like I've been using it in my belly button. I've been using it in my liver area, and I've been using it. I didn't mean to do that. Wow, that one came over because I'm not feeling that. I'm not feeling tired. There's again the download, right? That, we're in the middle of some big shifts here. And, many of us are grieving the old world that we're in, we used to be in. That old understandings that, the naiveness that our government's going to take care of us, that naiveness that our money is going to stay the same, the naiveness that when we have, like I'm even questioning the savings that we have in where we're at, that it's part of that story. So now you start stated it yawning. It's that moment. And so thank you, Paula, for being here. It's just, I'm just so grateful that whoever's here, when they're here, I'm just so grateful that you guys, that whoever can support, I hope I'm supporting you. And so you know here it is, that this downloads that we're been getting are so palatable that it's almost like, how can we negotiate moving into this new understanding and this new knowing and this amazingness that we are. And so letting ourselves move forward. We're going to have to move forward no matter what. And this next year is going to be changed. And that's one thing that I got my I finally got them. So Paula, if you want yours, I can send it to you. The Energy Almanac is finally here. And like I have a section in every month, intuitive clarifications, and they did this thing. And then there's one about the astrology and gemstones and numerology. And then there's another one, and then we have where it's the June moon work. So it tells you each week what to look for. Yes, yay. Yes, please. Yes. So text me your address and I will send one to you. And then, and they're going to be $60. So I hope that works for you. And so this astrology, and I love it because look at this. It's so easy just to flip it over, and it may be in black and white, but at the same time though, I'm loving that, it's just going to be an amazing thing. And I've been wanting to get one, and look how thick it is. I mean, it's not a small book, so it's so worth the money to get it. And and if anybody else wants it, that you can email me at natasha@intuitiveclarifications.com, or those who have my number, and those of you who have my number, my number. So I'm not going to say that on this podcast here. You know, so this grief that we're walking into in 2026, 2026 is going to be very palatable in the changes. And it's going to be interesting how we negotiate through those changes. It's going to be, we thought 2025 was a ride. Well, it's going to be on. And so if you're feeling like you're going through the grief process through the holiday season and you're kind of just processing a lot and you're moving through things, please remember that this is kind of the pause before the big energy shift. And we're the year of the snake. The year of the snake is going to shed off a lot of its old skin, right? It's going to shed off a lot of its old skin. And that's the thing is that I kind of got some notification about my kidneys. I took a blood test and the kidneys were a little bit taxed. And I've been really rebuilding my body. So it makes sense my kidneys have been a little bit in the grief process of what I've pulled everything through. And like my doctor said, your liver can heal, but your kidneys are a little more tender. They're the child of the group where your liver is more like the teenager years of your life, right? And so she was saying that, try to treat them really good and be well with them and drink lots of water. So I've been trying to drink more water. But going into how we're doing that, it's like I was really noticing that my blood pressure's been up a little bit. And I know sometimes that's an age thing and it's a hormonal thing and that kind of stuff. But I really got the story. Who's in my heart? Who's in my heart? What energy field? What understandings? What belief system is in my heart center? So guess what I've been doing today? New moon. I've been unthreading who's been in my heart. And now I'm getting in my liver. I'm getting in my kidneys about flushing, right? Who's in my mind? Those old stories that we have, the old relationships that we have, 34 years married with my husband. It's like I have some old stories that need to be relieved out of my story, right? So think about when your body's ailing, who's in that area? Who? And that's the grief process, right? I have a lot of grief that it sits in this heart center area. And I'm walking into the holidays here. I'm missing my family and that kind of thing. And it's hard to believe already that we're at Thanksgiving this next week. And I will be on next week. I was off by a week. I thought it was actually this week that Thanksgiving was. I've been totally flipped around on timelines. Talk about getting downloads. I've been getting downloads, big downloads for the last week and a half. So, going into this, that we're in the middle of things. And, I didn't mean to talk too much about this energy shift that we're going into, but, that's where we're at with the grief, right? That grief is who are we? What is it that's still tapping me? Who's part of this story that I'm in? What is the energy field around what is the moment? And, we can only negotiate the story of where we're at. So I was on Martha Norwalk's Animal World this last week. And it was very interesting how, and she said the story before that it was about, their four-leggers, their cats leaving them. And, their cats were getting older, that 14 years old, and, had a little bit of problems with their body. Hi, Veronica. You're not late, sweetie. You're fine. Regan's not here today. He ended up texting saying he wasn't feeling good. So I talked a little bit about the beginning of the show about the downloads that we may be getting, which is affecting our body self. And, so I was going to talk about, being on Martha Norwalk's Animal World. And, there was a couple people that had to either just put their animals down, or should I put their animal down, or how long is my animal going to live, and how does this energy go forward in what we're doing, and should I get a new cat? Does my cat miss my old cat? And there is a moment where we have this story. Hello, my cat's leaving. Go figure. It's like me grieving Rocky still. I'm really grieving Rocky. Because right now I would have had, well, at the holidays here, I would have had a cat because he would have been just a couple weeks old here, and you know, we're 2 years ago. That grief can really hit, and like I have someone who is with us on the radio, and she had to put her dog down, and it was an all of a sudden decision, and was wondering if she made the right decision, and she so did. She so did. But the thing is, though, she just lost her mom a year and a half ago, and I was saying how much that she was missing her, grieving the dog. Oh my gosh, yes, that dog was an amazing dog. Sometimes we have those animals that are heart-centered animals. Like there are knowings, there are spiritual animals. And I've been grieving Rocky. Talk about him a couple of days ago. Yeah. Because, things happen for a reason, and I have to believe that. I have to believe that he's in a better place. The other day, I was doing a session, and I heard him in the room where I had his food, and I heard a crunch, crunch, crunch. And animals are around us. Animals are around us, and we're in the middle of a lot of our energy fields right now, where things are going to leave us after, through this new year, through this holiday season, and then coming into the new year, we're in another portal where a lot of people are going to be leaving us, animals and a lot of people who are going to be leaving us. It's going to be animals, and I call them kind of people too, but they're going to be leaving us because it's a northern doorway, and in that doorway, we have to understand that sometimes, with our animals, that we wonder, should I put them down or should I let them go? And, a lot of times we have to do what our humanness wants us to do. If we can't watch that, that understanding, right? That understanding of, well, should I take him to the vet? Well, sometimes they don't really want to go to the vet, but at the same time, it would be better for us to have them go to the vet. Go to the vet. They're not mad at us because we took them, right? Now, if they're in the process of going, in other words, they're not getting up, and it's the process of going, please just let them go. But if they're like weeks away and you're feeling like they're just like, they're not holding their urine, they can't walk, they're not eating, and you feel like you can't let them go through the last weeks of their life, then so be it, right? So be it. It is a very hard thing. And Paula, you said he's probably hanging out with Jill in another timeline. Yeah, exactly. Your little one too. Because that's the thing is that having our understandings is amazing. And like going through the holiday season, I go through the grief process. I leave an extra plate at Thanksgiving for food. I can't do that at Christmas, especially when we go to Florida. But it's about being with the people around us, and supporting the family that's with us, and you know, going through this grief, and like Veronica, with your parents being on the elder side of life, you just don't never know when they're gonna go. And if we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it is a very traumatic time. And that's the thing is like going back to Stacy, who's part of the animal world, and her losing her mom, and then losing her tanker, this pup of hers, the pug that she had, you grieve domino, 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 domino. It's like grieve the animals, grieve the parents, grieve the parent, grieve the animal, grieve the parent, grieve the parent, grieve the animal, grieve the parent, grieve the parent. And you notice my hands are going back and forth, right? Because it's like the grief is not a straight line. Grief is not ever a straight line. And like for me, that right now, being in the moment where I'm at, and then getting the news about work about something going to change, boy, that really was like it's a struggle right now to even, not put, I had a video the other day about how I don't really feel like be, that I get angry that often, but I get stirred up. But I get kind of like, this isn't right. I get that but I stay out of that blow up frustration, anger thing, because I see the bigger picture. At the same time, though, how do I negotiate it? And that's where grief is that it's a little bit of a dance of processing, and when you get the information, and that's where I wanted to stay, is that I wanted to stay with kind of that informational thing that you get. When you get information about something, there is that grief process. We grieve that. Like, I had a friend who moved out of the state of Washington. She was grieving leaving her house. I started grieving leaving the house when my husband was talking about moving. Kind of put that on the back burner for right now, thankfully. But there's that moment of the identity that we have with the things around us. Grieving the shirt that we wear constantly and we feel at home in, and then it gets a rip in it and you can't wear it anymore. That's a grief process. And I'm going to tell you that sometimes that rip in that shirt is the thread that, or the stick that breaks the camel's back, right? As the saying goes, sorry, camel. That because of the fact that we've had all these traumatic things that have happened of change, and then this is the icebreaker, right? This moment with the shirt is the icebreaker. And that is so much where we think, why are we crying about over a shirt? Why am I so pained over a shirt? Well, ain't that a story? Right? Ain't that a story of how we negotiate where we're at? And so I'm going to take a little segue here. Those of you that thought that Regan Forston was going to be here, which I miss him so much, but he texted me and said that he's not feeling very good, and that actually he got a ride home from where he was at. So he couldn't even drive. So I didn't expect him to be here. So I'm going to miss him and wish him well. And maybe he can pop in another time soon. Maybe at the 1st of December, or maybe even in December again. We're all going through these upgrades. And now, oh gosh, talk about grief, right? Talk about grief. That, these upgrades, sometimes they're not as easy on the body as we think they should be. Like my kidneys, my blood pressure's been up a little bit, these organs that process things, that flush, like the kidneys flush, the heart center processes things, right? So, if your heart center is a little bit more achy, my heartbeat's been up a little bit, even at rest. And so with that I know that I'm processing through a lot. And it's okay, to have this ebb and flow in our body, but it's about honoring where it's at. And so, grieving where we're at and what we're doing, that it is amazing. And I don't know if you can see in the background, I don't know if it's happening to your film, but there's been some activity back here in my Fay area where the light and everything has been shifting up. And so they're saying, they're confirming that there is a lot going on. And it's where we're at. So if you start bawling over a broken dish, honor that grief moment. Because it may not be circled around just breaking that dish. It can, but it might have been the grief that you've had to gone through for the last 3 years, and you didn't realize that you were holding on to that, right? You weren't holding on to it. And so being who you are and what you're doing, that we're all in the midst of these upgrade moments. Some of us are doing it a little bit better than others. I didn't do it really well. Actually, my coworkers were like, they would look at me and they go, "Yeah, you're not looking good." And actually, my principal drove me home because of the fact that they didn't trust me driving because I was walking straight. But now I'm walking straight and I'm a little bit more. Now, if I get another download here, you know, I might be in the same boat because that's a moment. And the grief process is that, oh gosh, people had to take care of me. Could that be grief? Yes. Oh my gosh. I have to grieve. I have to be vulnerable. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Because that's the thing is that grief can piggyback on other emotions. So grief can piggyback on vulnerability. Grief can piggyback on anger. Grief can piggyback on happiness of laughter, and that laughter that you cry with. That can be piggybacking on happiness. Disappointment can be grief. We're all going through something right now, and I want you to be honorable where you're at. There's a lot of people that are getting notification that they're going to be homeless because they're losing their jobs. Oh my gosh. My love goes to everyone who's struggling with homes. I know, Paula, you struggled with a home there for a little while too, as you moved from Florida to Arizona, and you got yourself pretty much together, I know. But at the same time, though, it is a little scary and a little bit of a grief process when you're going through that much of a transformation, because life-altering moments are about endings and new beginnings, and that's a grief process. So, how do you negotiate your grief? Do you cry with it when it pops up? Do you laugh with it when it pops up? Do you energetically negotiate it when it pops up? Hmm? Because a lot of times, and when we're more vulnerable with our grief, we can move our way through the story of it a little bit more. But remembering that grief whispers in on piggybacking of other things happening. Like with my Rocky passing away, right? I know he has. I can feel it. I know it. But the thing is, though, his grief, I've been thinking about my Maya. And then, oh my gosh, I had a dream the other night about my Brody. My Brody, I had a cat that when I got her when I moved in, she was with me for probably almost 20 years. And she went through my ex-husband and then moving into this house, and she passed away. And I dreamt of her. The thing is, though, what I dreamt is that she was an old lady. She was an old lady, not an old lady of a cat. She was still in the cat body. And she was at kind of like a business type of thing. And I went and I knew I had needed to bring her home. I needed to bring her home. And her front paws were like, they weren't walking right. They were kind of folding back. They were kind of, and she was a beautiful black and white cat that we have a neighbor that actually has almost the same markings, but her shorter hair. And she had that moment of this the sleekness of a cat with a fluffy tail, shorter hair in the front and then longer as it went back, but she wasn't like real long. It was actually a neat type of long-haired cat. But she was all kind of like tattered and torn, and an older cat, right? They just don't always, they're not spit shiny, and I knew I needed to bring her home. What was kind of interesting how on Martha Norwalk's Animal World that later morning that I was helping somebody going through the process of maybe her cat passing away. And it was kind of interesting how, we have these moments where these dreams come up to help us process the grief process of us. So I've been processing Rocky, I've been processing Maya, my Tortie, and then Brody, and these wonderful beings that come through. And yeah, I had one Mac, he was a good one. Rocky, and then Rico. I had a Rico. And I don't know if you guys know that song from Rico Suave. Um, that I'm too sexy for my body. Well, that was why Rico was named Rico, was because he was too sexy for his teenage body when he was younger. He had muscles. This cat had muscles. Well, he got a cut. My males, they get caught by coyotes. So I think I'm done with the males. I'm gonna stick with females. They're a little bit more independent, anyways. That it's when we kind of come into our fruition of who we are. Grief can really set forth this understanding and can really set us into where a lot of things are leaving us. Like, we may be losing our jobs, we may be losing friendships, we may be losing a lot of these things because of the upgrades we're going through, these upgrades of understandings. And when we're going through this upgrade of understandings, that we do lose the things around us. My Rocky, right? That he knew he didn't need me, that I didn't need him anymore, that I could walk my own life. But that's the grief that would hit, is why did he have to leave? Why? So if you're asking the question, why is this happening to me a lot? Why is this? That's part of the grief process. Or how do I get through this? How do I get through this? Check in to see if you're using that language, if there's grief that it's tapping into the story of what you're working through. How do I get through not being able to eat what I used to eat? How do I get through this new job? How do I get through the story that's coming to me right now? Right? Because we're in the midst of change. And I am choosing not to be in the reality that the decisions are being made around me. Not my story. I'm good where I'm at. I'm really good where I'm at. I understand things might need to change, but I'm not going to do the decision that was being made. Okay. So when we are in the middle of what we are and what we are doing, grief is part of the vulnerability story. And I like what Regan said one time on our show, that grief is the unvoiced, unfelt love towards somebody. Because when somebody's in the physical, you can send them love, you can talk with them, you can be with them, but it's that unprocessed, the unverbalized, the undoing of the love that we have for somebody, or the grief of the old story. I know a lot of people that are grieving the relationship that they couldn't have with somebody. Like, if you had an abusive parent, let's say, and you don't know how to grieve somebody that was an abusive story, well, grieve the story that you didn't get with that person that you thought that you deserved, right? I love the other analogy that I heard one day, that it was like, you're carrying around a rock. You put a rock in your pocket, and that's the story of the energy, right? The and that rock is heavy at the beginning, but as you keep walking with it, the rock doesn't change, but you get stronger, you get different, you get where you kind of forget about it, you get where you negotiate its story with you. It might be a little bulgy, so you wear different kinds of shirts, right? But when you take out the rock is just as heavy, but you've learned the skills to negotiate it. And that's what grief is. Grief is the rock that you put in your pocket, and it doesn't necessarily change, but you change in how you process it. You change how you are. You're not necessarily, grief didn't change who I was, but it awoken who I needed to be, who I was called to be. It awoken my story. And I'm so grateful for the vulnerability piece of grief, because I learned so much of my story, so much of who I was. My husband said that I wasn't the same woman that he married, because I shifted out of my shyness and my holding myself back to be the voice of love for the universe. And that's how you negotiate the grieving process, is that you just are who you are in the moment that you're in it. It's not that you need to change up anything, and oh my gosh, I have witnessed several people going through life altering grief. Now there's grief that is, any grief can be life altering, but there's some that are more impactful. Let's say losing a spouse of over 50 years, or losing a child, hmm, or losing these moments of the reality, or losing your, like, if like, I have an aunt that she took care of the siblings, and then she took care of her husband who had MS, and then the husband left, and now what does she do? Because she's been using to take care of things, and I tell people, and one of my coworkers, she lost a child, and I said, "Y- please remember that when you go through that kind of grief, your brain changes. Grief changes the process of the wiring of the brain. I know for me, I had one passing after another, after another, after another, and that's more the traumatic brain scenario. I'm not going to call it injury, but scenario. So if I get in stress moments, my brain goes, "Ding." It doesn't really work as well. I'll forget what I'm doing, or my dyslexia really gets triggered. And I've been so grateful for the people who've been patient with me lately, because words are not coming to me. I've been getting so many downloads, and I've been in that moment where things have been coming at me a little bit quicker. And so I'm trying to keep those words, but they're just leaving, and they're going away. Usually I can get a word back within a paragraph. Oh no, it's a whole nother conversation. And so going into this, be careful of how your brain, like, I really wish that when I was going through a grief process, I would have had the knowings that I do now. And I would have taken the zinc and the A and the Z, or and my adrenal medicine, and a lot of those, ashwagandha, type of things that would help the brain. And I bet I could still use it, but at the same time, though, I haven't really been called to. And every time I muscle test it, I hear no. So I don't know. Um, mm, Sorry, I'm starting to get dizzy again. So going into this, that who are we and what are we going to be doing with our reality? So what I'm going to do now, since I'm starting to spin a little bit, I am going to start channeling so that I can channel. And now I wasn't expecting to channel today because Regan Forston was going to be on, but who wants to come in? Now, remembering when I channel, I'm not channeling, I don't leave fully. I channel enough to bring somebody in. You know who's calling to me is Mother Mary. I know Jesus can do it too, but Mother Mary, um, Mother Mary wants to be here and to support in this grief process journey. So let's pull her in. Hmm. So remembering your truth is your truth. I'm here to do and be a conduit of love and light. So if you are don't believe in channeling, please listen to the words and understand that there is something here for you to be. And I may pull oracle cards. I might just pull one, depending on what happens while I'm channeling Mother Mary, because she just might fix my dizziness here. Hello, all. And remember, love is with you. Love is the moment where you can be when you're going through this story of what she was talking about with what we are going through on this planet right now. This planet right now is going through a lot of the grief process of herself. And that's when we go through these stories of the body doing some changes and upgrades. So, coming into who you are and what you are doing, remembering that grief, even I, mother, have been grieving a lot of the story of this planet that you have been going through, because this planet has not been a straight line at all for you guys. Remembering that being the human that you are coming into a fruition of the splitting of the worlds. And there's been this video of two worlds. Yes, there are two worlds in one reality, but yet not in the reality we're at right now. Right now, you may feel like you are standing between two worlds, like this dear one is right now. And that the reality, because of the reality of decisions being made in the 3D world, and then knowing the cosmic understanding that she is right now, that cosmic changing up, the those brilliances that she is enduring into of understandings. And so when you go through these upgrades, like this dear one is, that she can feel the change in her body. So remembering that you can actually, while you're going through these upgrades and updos and up understandings, that you can ask for your body to get healed through that process. Because when you go through these upgrades and updos, that you are negotiating with the DNA of the body. You are negotiating with the gene pool of the body. And yes, your genes can change just slightly, not hugely, but slightly, especially the ones that are negotiating part of your, I love that word she says, part of the understanding of the cosmic change, not the ones necessarily you were born with a body from parent to parent. That's a little different, but you can change the genes of the understanding of the spiritual evolution that you're in. So come into who you are with love, be the love you are, be the kindness that you are to yourself and others, as this transformation is going to bring in some bigger understandings. It's time to believe in you. It's time to believe in the story of you. And believing in what and who you are can make a difference in the realities. Excuse me for a second. I'm centering herself. There we go. So when we are part of the journey of our evolution, remembering that the emotional based story of your physical body is a blessing, not a curse. It's a blessing because it gives you insights to who you are. Like the body center of this dear one, and she has been working with her heart center for a very long time without knowing. And she has left a little bit of openness for the ones that are close to her to sneak in, and they don't know how to belong in her. So I'm going to have her smudge before she leaves this room to cleanse the energy field around her so that she can be more pure herself. Does that make sense, my dears? And remembering that as you go forward in who you are, that you're going to be perfectly imperfect. Oh, I love that one too, that she has. We actually gave that to her. That going forward, that you never know who and what you are until you are what you are to be. May love be with you, my children of the society of this planet. And remember that grief has been a part of this story for many years. Even the story of Adam and Eve is part of grief, right? The year of the snake. Ooh, isn't that the story? Snuck that one in, didn't I? So Adam and Eve had the serpent, the snake. This is the year of the snake with the Chinese New Year, right? What did Adam and Eve begin? Manhood. You're in the evolution of manhood. So believe in who you are and what you're doing, because the belief of wisdom is coming forth for you. And it's time for you to believe in you. And remembering that as the stories come and go, it is time for you to believe in your truth, your understanding, and your wisdom. May love be with you. Call upon me at any point in time, and I will send my love with you, and I will be there with you to be the love that you are calling to be. May peace and tranquility with grace and ease be with you. So be. Whew. Well, she didn't really. I may have to end this soon. So I'm going to pull an oracle card for you all as an understanding. It may be more than one, as the universe has been coming forward. And what no, I'm not going to try reading. Sorry, not going to try reading. The wisdom of the Avalon card. So not pulling one individually for anybody. Thank you all for being here. I will be I'm going to ask for my guides to give me a little bit of a break. Tone down the dizziness for me. I want everyone to know that you are a blessing. You are a miracle in the works, and you are in the process of coming into big fruitions if you keep your story in a more of a straighter line, right? There's been so much wobbliness out there that, it's like boundaries right now are huge. Boundaries right now. Oh my gosh, boundaries. Boundaries with self. Ooh, ain't that a good one? Maybe I should talk about boundaries with self. Not today, though. Okay. What card wants to come out for everyone? There we go. Oh, that was a moment. Ooh, the owl. Seeing in the dark. Seeing through the wisdom. Seeing through the old magic. What of you in the Native American keep your feet on the ground and stop the dizzy? Yes, to me, that doesn't help. I love that idea, Paula. I've tried touching my feet. Yeah. There's something, it's I'm actually getting it's my pituitary gland that's being upgraded right now. That's what I just asked what it was, and it was pituitary gland. So it's at the stem, the core of myself. So I gotta figure that out. Okay, so the owl is wisdom. The owl is seeing through the dark. Being able to fly through the trees at speed in the dark, the vision through the darkness of our realities. It's dark outside right now. We're coming in the winter months, so we got to find that wisdom. Sorry, because it's about perception. So remember, perception can really hold on to our reality. And I was not going to read, but Owl wants me to read. Owl wants me to read. So I'm going to trust that Owl will help me read. Okay, so Owl. The owl lends you eyes that you need in... okay, sorry, like I said. Owl lends you eyes that you need under to see the dark around you, in order to see the dark around you. The owl can cut through the shadows of the illusions to the real truth. Someone may be trying to camouflage his or her real intentions, detect lies and unclear intentions to expose the owl energy. Oh, that's a good one. The owl also reminds you to be honest with yourself and snap out of any lies and detail inside you. Lying to yourself is a way that you'll remain lost in the prison of your own making. The owl appears to ask you to seek the truth in darkest places within yourself. This will set you free and restore you to the wholeness. All is well with the owl to guide you. Deep wisdom into human nature to gain through the ability to recognize untruths. Owl is an important and powerful ally. And thank you for the suggestion about putting my feet on the ground, Paula. I'm so grateful. Yes. So owl. And perception. Perception is huge right now. Things are happening left and right. And it's really about our perception. And I'm going to, 42, I'm going to try reading that one too. Appreciate your patience with me. Sometimes when I get dizzy like this, my dyslexia gets really triggered. And so I'm honoring, but you know what? Persevering through a lot of things, persevering through the realities around us, it's not going to be easy right now. And this is a great metaphor for what's happening to us. And what are we going to do about it? Are we going to become a victim of it, or are we going to persevere through? Because perception, 42, which is actually 6. The marker requires you to contemplate how you look at the world. Through what eyes do you see? Do you peer through those of prejudice and judgment? Are you viewing your predicament, circumstance with projecting your past? Ooh, I gotta look at that one. For me too. This is a time to slow down and to observe all angles. This calls for objectivity and a willingness to examine your life and others through the natural pair of eyes. Within you, awareness is transcending your ego's separated sense of self. Rise above, see through your soul, and know that things aren't always what they appear to be. This marker brings clarity and asks you to look and to wait. Perhaps all you need to do is to relax and put up on another pair of glasses. Then what is in front of you might be magically transformed. Perception is everything. Take no further action until you see how this message applies to you, a current situation. Then once you've shifted your perception, you may find that this was all that you needed to do. You're more than welcome. Yeah, it's a moment. We're in this moment of big shifts and changes. And there's one more card that wants to come out. And I'm not going to read that one because I think my eyes are done reading. 2 more cards. Because we need to stay out of fear and negotiate our communication. So be careful what communication you have to do in fear. And that's our story, right? So, Owl's medicine wants to help us with our perception, to stay out of fear, and to work with our communication in our world. May love be with you, and remembering that as you go forward, life is going to be an interesting dance. And I will be here next Wednesday, which is the night before Thanksgiving. Not expecting anybody else to be here, but I'm called to be here, and remembering that my mantra this month is that that I'm grateful and thankful for what I have, because right now things can be happening, and I know I'm pretty darn lucky with what I have, and I know that I have an abundant life, but not everybody does. And so when we're thankful and grateful for what we have, sometimes the simplicity of what we have is enough, because abundance doesn't always mean that we have to have more. Abundance means that we have. We have. So thank you, everyone. And may you find blessings in this journey as you go into the roller coaster of the realities we're in. And remembering that a lot of times it's not about us. Like, I've been wondering who's having problems with their heart that I don't know about, right? So, read into things a little bit with a broader eyes and see that reality is not a straight line. It's actually quite a journey. May grief be gentle on you as we walk into these new stories. May your life be gentle with you as we walk into these new stories. And may you know that you are so loved with Mother's heart love that she can do with you, with Jesus's help and all the angels around you. Remember, you're not alone. If you're looking for assistance, please know that I do have 10% off my sessions, that you can copy and paste that code on the session wheel on the front page of my website. Oh, I had to grab that word back again. It was almost ready to leave. So I have 10% off the front page of my website to put on as your sessions. So may love be with you. Remembering that if you're looking for assistance, I also have these 2-minute videos, around 2 minutes to 3 minutes, and any platform besides Facebook to give you assistance in the journey of where we're at. May love be with you. May you be loved. And remembering you are magic in the beginnings of our reality to make this world a better place. Bye now. Oh, please like, share, and save if you can. Thank you.